Hello friends, today we'll be discussing about chronic osteomyelitis. There is a separate lecture on acute osteomyelitis that has been taken and uploaded in a separate PPT. So let's start with the discussion of osteomyelitis and initially start with the definition of osteomyelitis. So if we see, osteomyelitis is made up of three separate words. It is osteo, myelo and itis. So osteo is bone, myelo is bone marrow, and itis is inflammation. So we define osteomyelitis as infection of bone and bone marrow caused by microorganisms. It is a Greek word. It has been explained. So to classify osteomyelitis, we can classify it according to various methods. So first is the duration, second is the route of spread, and third is the host response. So we will see all the three in detail. So according to the duration, osteomyelitis is classified into three types, that is acute, subacute and chronic. So if the patient presents to you within 2 weeks of onset of symptoms, then it is acute osteomyelitis. If the symptoms persist for 2 to 3 weeks, then it is chronic osteomyelitis, subacute osteomyelitis. And if it persists for more than 3 weeks, then it is a chronic osteomyelitis. It can also be classified according to the route of the spread. There are three different routes of spread that can be possible. First is hematogenous, second is direct, and third is contiguity. So hematogenous spread means the infection has spread through the blood route of the blood or blood supply. So you have an infection somewhere else, like you can have, the patient can have infection of the lungs or any other infection in the body that spreads through to the bone through blood supply. Second is a direct spread. Direct spread means if the patient has a open wound and the bone got infected. Third is a contiguity. Contiguity is the adjacent structures. Suppose you have an infection of a joint and the bone adjacent to the joint is getting affected, it is known as a contiguity. The third classification is the host response. If there is a pyogenic reaction, it's known as pyogenic. If there is no pyogenic reaction, it is known as non-pyogenic. Pyogenic means formation of the pus. If there is a pus, it is a pyogenic. If there is no pus, it is non-pyogenic. So we'll start specifically with the chronic osteomyelitis now. So definition is according to the duration of the symptoms. So infection of the bone lasting for more than 3 weeks is known as chronic osteomyelitis. Then coming to types of chronic osteomyelitis also can be divided into three types. First is chronic osteomyelitis secondary to acute osteomyelitis. So you have a acute osteomyelitis which was untreated, or there was infection persisting for more than 3 weeks. So it is classified as chronic osteomyelitis. Or it can be a Gary's osteomyelitis, or it can be a Brody's abscess. So these two we'll revisit this two in short in last two slides of the presentation. So there is a classification of Cierney and Madder for chronic osteomyelitis. It is divided into four types. So first type is medullary type. So only the medullary cavity or the marrow cavity is involved. That is known as a medullary chronic osteomyelitis. If it is involving the surface, the complete surface of the bone, that is known as a surface osteomyelitis. It can be a localized, so some part of the surface and some part of the marrow is involved, and it is known as a localized chronic osteomyelitis. So coming to the final type, if there is a diffuse involvement of the surface, all the three surfaces or four surfaces of the bone are involved and the whole of the medullary cavity is involved, it is known as a diffuse chronic osteomyelitis. Coming to pathophysiology, So acute osteomyelitis leads to chronic osteomyelitis because of one or more of the following reasons. So if there is a delayed or inadequate treatment, so if suppose the patient had a infection, fever, symptoms of acute osteomyelitis, but patient did not report to the OPD or casualty, or did not go to any doctor, and there was no treatment given, so there was delayed treatment, or there was inadequate treatment, so the patient was admitted but no antibiotics were started, or the antibiotics which are not effective were started. That can also be a cause. It can also be a type and virulence of the organism. So if the organism is highly virulent to begin with, so there will be more destruction of the bone and the infection will persist in spite of giving proper antibiotics also. Or if the virus was, or the organism was resistant to the antibiotics, so that can also be the cause. Third is the reduced host resistance. Reduced host resistance can occur in many conditions, like if the patient is on antiretroviral treatment, if the patient is having HIV, or if the patient is having diabetes, or if the patient is on immunosuppressant agents for any conditions like autoimmune diseases or cancer, then also it can happen. So the sequence of events are: persistent infection is there, so bone reacts by producing more periosteal bone, then there is bone thickening, and there is continuous discharge of pus causing formation of a sinus. So there are few parts of chronic osteomyelitis which are very important. First is the sequestrum. Sequestrum in short is a dead piece of bone. So in this is the sequestrum, the thing that is denoted by sorry, this is the sequestrum, the part that is denoted by B, so central part, the black part. So it is a dead piece of bone. It will always be surrounded by infected granulation tissue, so that is the sequestrum. Then there will be involucrum. Involucrum is the dense sclerotic bone overlying a sequestrum. In short, it is the new bone formation that the body is trying to throw. So in this x-ray, or in this photo, the part that is C is your involucrum, and cloacae are the holes through the involucrum from which pus drains out. So this F, this part is your involucrum. So it is a tract through which the pus that is formed near sequestrum is being drained out of the body. This is your pus. So coming to the clinical features, so commonest presentation will be a chronic discharging sinus. The patient will come with sinus which is draining pus on and off for many months or years altogether, and there will be extrusion of small bone. If you see small bone fragments coming out of the discharging sinus, then it is a diagnostic of chronic osteomyelitis. Pain and fever, which are very common in acute osteomyelitis, is a very rare finding in chronic osteomyelitis. Coming to specific clinical examination, there will be chronic discharging sinus, there will be thickened irregular bone, there will be tenderness on deep palpation, and adjacent joint may be stiff because the patient might not be moving his limb or the joint due to pain. Coming to investigation, the most common investigation that we do for chronic osteomyelitis, or a first investigation, will always be a X-ray. So in X-ray, you can see thickening and irregularity of the cortices. You can see here the cortices are thick and irregular. You can see a sequestrum. See this part, the whitish part that you see. This is a sequestrum. Why it is appearing more dense than the surrounding bone is because the decalcification that occurs in normal bone is not happening in sequestrum, as it is a dead piece of bone. There is no blood supply. You can see cloacae like this. These are the holes through which the pus is drained, and you can also see the involucrum. See, this is your involucrum. This is a new piece of new bone formation that the body is trying to throw up. Then you can do a sinogram. Sinogram is nothing but you put a methylene blue or a radiopaque dye through this sinus or the cloacae, and you you take a X-ray in an AP and a lateral view, so that the whole of the tract you can see on X-ray. Why this is important? This will tell you what direction you need to excise the sinus during your operation, because you need to do all the sinus removal and to reach the bone towards the towards the sequestrum. Other investigations that can be done is a CT scan or a MRI scan or a pus culture and a blood investigation. CT scan will be helpful to see for the exact level of sequestrum or the blood damage, the bone damage that has been happening. MRI scan is usually used to delineate the level of the involvement of the bone or the bone marrow and the soft tissue condition around the osteomyelitis. Pus culture will have to be sent to look for specific sensitivity of the microorganisms, and blood investigations which are important are your complete blood count, which will give you WBC count, your neutrophils count, and your ESR, that is erythrocyte sedimentation rate, and the CRP, C-reactive protein, which are markers of chronic inflammation, so that will be raised. Then coming to differential diagnosis, so differential diagnosis can be tubercular osteomyelitis, it can be a soft tissue infection, or it can be a Ewing sarcoma also. Coming to treatment, the treatment of chronic osteomyelitis is almost always surgical. You have to remove the sequestrum. Unless you remove the sequestrum and remove all the dead piece of bone and the pus and the sinus tract, you can't expect the patient to heal on his own. So there are few principles that are important. It is removal of dead bone, that is a sequestrum, elimination of dead space and cavities, and removal of infected granulation tissue and sinuses. Coming to sequestrectomy, sequestrectomy is the removal of sequestrum. Saucerization, it is a procedure in which a cavity is converted into a saucer by removing its wall. This allows free drainage of the infected material. In the next slide, we'll see it in pictorial representation. You have to do a curettage. So after you remove your sequestrum and do saucerization, you have to curate the wall of the cavity so that infected granulation tissue can be removed until the underlying normal looking bone is seen, bleeding bone is seen. Then you have to do excision of the infected bone, and you can also do amputation, but that is very rare. If a person is having chronic osteomyelitis for years altogether and the patient specifically requests you that he is not able to do his daily activities, so you can do a amputation. So this is saucerization. This is your cloaca, this is the cavity of the infection. So what we do is we remove the normal piece of cortex on both ends so that we can see the whole of the cavity, so that whatever infection has spreaded on this part also can be removed, and here also whatever has spreaded in the marrow also can be removed. Coming to complications, so the patient with chronic osteomyelitis can have an acute exacerbation. So when there is extrusion of the pus from the sinus, there can be growth abnormalities. Growth abnormalities will happen if the patient is a child. So what will happen is the infection can spread to the growth plates and there will be growth abnormalities. There can be other lengthening, shortening, rotational deformities, varus or valgus malalignment, anything can happen. There can be a pathological fracture. As the infected bone is a weak bone, the patient can have trivial fall or also can fracture his bone while walking also. There can be joint stiffness. Why the joint stiffness will happen? If the osteomyelitis is present near a joint, then the patient might not be moving his limb or the joint in normal way because of the pain that is associated with movement. So there can be joint stiffness also. So if it is a long standing osteomyelitis, there can be sinus tract malignancy also that can happen, and amyloidosis also might happen. Then coming to the special types of chronic osteomyelitis, that is Gary's and Brody's. So first we will look for Gary's osteomyelitis. Gary's osteomyelitis, the most important part is it is a non-suppurative chronic osteomyelitis. There is no formation of pus, and it's a sclerosing type of osteomyelitis. So as you can see on this X-ray, the whole bone is sclerosed. There is no formation of pus, there is no discharging sinus, but there is full sclerosing osteomyelitis that is seen on the X-ray. Its etiology is low-grade anaerobic infection. So what happens is a low-grade anaerobic organisms affects the bone, but the as it is a low-grade or a very low virulent organism, the body doesn't throw out pus. There is no discharge, nothing. So on X-ray you show expanded bone with generalized sclerosis. Diagnosis is confirmed by biopsy because it mimics bone tumors which commonly present with similar features. Example, Ewing's tumor, Ewing sarcoma or osteosarcoma. So you have to do a biopsy to confirm the diagnosis. Treatment is with antibiotics and drilling of bones. It is discharge or decompression. So coming to Brodys abscess, Brodys abscess happens when a very low virulent organism affects your bone, but the body is able to contain the infection. So the body's defense mechanism have been able to contain the infection so as to create a chronic bone abscess containing pus or jelly-like granulation tissue surrounded by a zone of sclerosis. So this is your pus and this is your sclerosis. The body has been able to contain the infection. It happens due to low virulence, Staphylococcus aureus. X-ray shows a circular or oval lucent area surrounded by a zone of sclerosis, and the treatment is surgical evacuation. So that brings us to the end of our lecture. Thank you very much.